Good evening. How are you all? And welcome to the In the Works podcast from Scriptworks Productions. Now, I see we have 7 viewers already, so don't be shy. Please do say hello in the comments. Let us know who is watching. We're really excited for you to be here again today. Now, we haven't been around for a little while because we have been insanely busy, which is a nice problem to have, of course. I've been away filming for a fair few weeks. Emily has been working away behind the scenes, and we've got some very cool news to be extending to you in a little while. But in the meantime, whilst we're talking about Emily, let's give her a big welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, the brains behind Scriptworks Productions, or one of the brains, Emily Isaacs. Hey, there she is. Yeah. How are you? You all right?
Oh, yes, I'm fine. How are you doing?
Yeah, tired. I'm really tired.
I'm surprised.
It's
oh
been
my
nuts.
God.
How are you?
Mad. What a mad start to the year.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. It's like we haven't done a broadcast since
January.
Did we do one in January?
Yes, yeah.
We did one in January. I just lost track of all time.
We did one in January with Rory.
Yes, we did, didn't we? Yeah. And then just lockdown and me homeschooling and working and you going away.
Yeah.
It's all been a bit.
Yeah, that's right. It's all been a bit nuts. So as I said in my introduction there, we've been beavering away behind the scenes. But mostly it's been you beavering away with regards to Scriptworks, because I've been kind of doing my day job as an actor. So give us a heads up as the kind of stuff that you've been up to. I mean, we're going to speak about some news. Tell us what's happened with Alice.
With Alice. It's it's really
exciting.
I am really excited. It's just, I'm just trying to get my head around it, really. It's
awesome.
Tell
everyone, come on.
Okay, so I think it was last year at some point I went to a Women in Film and Television event online, and I met a lovely director called Jo Southwell from who has her own production company called Aston
Productions, yeah.
And she's done some really lovely, beautiful shorts. You can check them out at her through her website. Some of them are on Amazon, I think. And they're really great. And she's one of the new BAFTA crew selections. She's shadow directed on Killing Eve, and she's really lovely. So we got chatting, and I told her about Alice back then. And anyway, we reconnected last month, and we got chatting about things. And she said, is Alice still available? And I said, well, yes, it is. So what we've done is we've entered into what's called a shopping agreement.
Entered into a what?
A shopping agreement.
A shopping agreement. Now,
yes.
Now, so a shopping agreement. What's a shopping agreement? I've never heard of this.
Okay, so it's also known as optioning.
I've heard of that.
Optioning a script. So whereby a producer comes along and says, I really want to make your script. Or you've frozen.
Have I?
I don't know whether that might just be me, but you froze for a sec.
Well, can you hear me?
I'll keep going. I'll just keep going.
Yeah, you just keep going.
So essentially you just kind of come to an agreement whereby the producer takes your script and shops it around town to different production companies to kind of gather some momentum and get some funding for it and get the ball rolling and basically sort of try and get the funding to make your project. So I'm really, really honoured that She's so behind the project. She loves it, and so does her agent, who are WGM Atlantic. And yeah, they're already in talks with some. I obviously can't say who at this point, but they're in talks with some really quite impressive companies. So it's looking really, really fabulous already, and it's not been very long at all. So I'm very excited about it, and I'm very excited about working with Jo, because she seems like a really lovely lady, and so far it's been a dream, really. So yeah, really, really fabulous.
That's fantastic. Am I back now?
Yeah,
I am back now.
Yeah, you're a little bit out of focus. It's all a bit wibbly. Yeah, it was so good earlier.
Yeah, I know.
But the luck of the draw.
The good news is, however, and this might make the difference, that there's a load of well, first of all, that is all really exciting. Let's not move on to my crappy. That is really, really exciting stuff. And it seems like Kirsten Smith is excited. She's giving you the clap. Well, no, she hasn't given you the clap, because that's. But
Kirsten's one of our patrons. Thank you, Kirsten.
She is one of our patrons, and we've got some news for our patrons in a little while, don't we?
Yes, we have.
But yeah, kind of poopy internet. You know, we got kids, we got a million devices.
Better now. It's good.
It's better now. Yeah. But it does get rubbish. It does get rubbish. But there's a load of fiber work going on in Eastbourne, and City Fiber, I think, are laying new fiber cables to give fiber to the premises. So we'll get gigabit internet at home, which means kind of, you know, a gigabit download and maybe a couple of 100 meg upload, which makes kind of jobs that like Gino does, you know, so much easier. Because it's the, you know, you spend a day editing and then a day uploading. Absolutely. So hopefully that will that'll be better. So whilst we're talking about, and we said hello to Kirsten, one of our Patreons. Is it Patreons or patrons?
Right. So the site where people can patronize us, basically. They can become
all the time.
They can patronize us. No, they can become patrons. So this to be a patron, just like they were in the Renaissance times. You had very rich patrons, and the rich people would pay the artists for their work, and it's just kind of returning to that, really.
So there we go. So first of all, thank you to all of our patrons. If you would like to support us, look at the link just down here, patreon.com/scriptworks. That's our tag, Scriptworks P. You can follow us over on Facebook, Scriptworks Productions. Search for us on Twitter and Instagram, Scriptworks Productions. And look who's shown up. Hey, we got Wade.
Hey, hi, Wade.
Sometime in the future we'll be talking to, and Wade had some recent success with one of his books. So that's very, very exciting. He's done some self-publishing, I believe. We'll, look, he hasn't just said hi, Greg. He's also said hi.
NBC. I get highs too.
That's very nice. So yeah, we'll be getting Wayne on at some point, I'm sure. Now we've got to kind of whip through, because we've got some of the news, or we save some of it till the end. Because what we do is we plan out what we're going to talk about, and then that goes out the window on the night, and we end up, let's do a show for an hour, and then it's a 2-hour show, because our guests are just so interesting. We had Sam Coleman, we had Rory Wilton, two people that I've worked with. So our first guest I've worked with, our second guest I've worked with. You might see a theme here. And today's guest, I've wanted to work with for such a long time, and I finally this year got round to working with him. We were supposed to do some stuff last year, but inevitable stuff happened. Visionary director Charlie Steeds. Of other bits of news before Charlie comes along, but I'm really, really excited to get to talk to him. I've been chatting with him for the past 3 weeks anyway, and but to actually get him on now. Charlie has his own podcast, but I'll let him pimp that, I think.
Must have put the label under the cup.
What does the label say? Dunhill Mill,
Nothing exotic habitat. Ooh.
Oh, crikey. How the middle class live. habitat. So we got a couple of bits of news. One that I think we would like to save till
No,
till
come on.
after. No. I'm going to say that one's after. What I will say though is a couple of bits of news. Last year, I was involved in a TV production called The Third Day, Autumn, massive live event. It was a 12-hour live stream, which Emily quite likes.
We watched it. We watched every single second, and we were just. I couldn't go to the loo. I was just glued to it. It was just weirdly so transfixing. Even when there was. Well, just every moment was just, there was just something to notice and something to observe. And even when there wasn't things, well, there was always something to what it was just, it was really, really amazing.
Every single shot, even when it appeared nothing was going on, was leading to something, Massive 12-hour.
It was just building and building the whole time.
And it ended. Massively. But we found out a few weeks back that we'd been nominated for the Royal Television Society's Best Live Event, and we found out yesterday that we had won Best Live Event. We beat a theatre production and the election coverage. Beating the election coverage, that was a no-brainer really, but to beat some true live theatre is fantastic, and I'm so excited to now say that I've been in an award-winning TV show. Well, it's a film, really, wasn't it? It's a 12-hour film, but also a TV show and a theatre experience. And this is what Scriptworks is all about: transmedia.
Exactly. This is the kind of thing I want to start getting into our projects.
That's it. Many feet in making
we've got a plan for a short film that we want to do over the summer, where we want to try and incorporate some aspect of theatre into it as well. So
I thought it was we were going to include some aspects of panto.
No.
Oh yes, we were. Oh come on, Emily!
Don't catch me out like that.
Oh, darn.
I got played on today. But I'd love to sort of get some audience actually being part of the film as we do it, because everyone loves being on a film set, don't they? Anyway, the experience of being on a film set is great. Oh no, you weren't, Cicely.
That's fantastic. So yes, we won that, and it was a massive boost. Punch Drunk have posted out saying just how honored they are, and everybody made it happen, and it really was a collaborative team effort. And to be able to have the only legal sanctioned party in the UK last year during the lockdown was just was just awesome. Another piece of news which I'm very, very excited about is tomorrow at 2 minutes past 7 in the morning, Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to be made available through Sky Cinema and Now TV. If you don't know, the theatrical cut of Justice League was only 2 hours long. So much of the story was torn apart by the studio for reasons, not particularly good reasons, but they're reasons nonetheless. For 3.5 years, people have been fighting for Zack Snyder to have his vision realized. HBO Max stepped in and said, we'll make that vision happen. And now what we've got is the 4-hour director's cut of what Justice League should have been, including 4 hours. Yeah, it's a 4-hour film. Yeah. And in the theatrical version, 30 minutes of Justice League was Zack Snyder. 90 minutes of Justice League was Joss Whedon. Obviously, a lot of negative press about Joss at the moment. And we all, people have said it was really, really tough working for him and pretty horrible working for him. And he's been called out, as it should happen when people are crappy to work with, especially in the way that he's been doing it. But the point there is, we've only seen 30 minutes of Zack Snyder footage, which means the 4-hour Justice League is 3.5 hours of unseen footage. And that, to me, is so exciting. I am really, really...
And you're in it, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a tweet from a friend of mine who managed to get a sneak preview from a friend who was on the crew, and he said, I've got my scenes in it. So I'm really, really excited about it. In fact, let me see if I can... I probably shouldn't do this, but here we go, because it hasn't officially been released yet. No, I'm going to do it. It's my podcast. Screw it.
Greg, naughty.
Yeah. There we go. Look.
Nothing to do with me. I'm not sanctioning this.
There it is. There's
oh wow.
There's me right next to Francis McGee.
Oh, it does look lovely.
Yeah,
well, wouldn't it?
So I'm really, really excited to see that. Yeah. So so that's some news. If you want to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, why wouldn't anyone want to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League? But you don't have Sky Cinema, sign up for the 7-day free trial of Now TV. Just saying. That's how loads of people watched the third day, Autumn, because you could only get it on Sky Arts. So they were like, sign up to the 7-day free trial. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to pay for it.
Oh, everybody does it.
Everybody does it. Now, what I want, I would love it if it came out on Blu-ray, the 4K Zack Snyder's Justice League vision. But until that happens, we've only got it on Now TV. Now, something exciting has just happened. I can see in the green room down below the handsome young Mr. Charlie Steeds just lounging in his on his throne there, which I suspect is more his bed. Shall we say hello to Charlie, Emily? What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Let's get him in.
Come on, then.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show the fantastic Charlie Steeds. Hey! Hello there, Charlie. How are you, brother?
Yes, I'm good. Yeah, and I'm in bed. I'm tucked under the covers, just chilling.
That's perfect. That's the way.
I'm surprised if we're in between two films. My God,
yeah. Got to get my rest days in.
Yeah, and so first of all, let me just give a little bit of background. Charlie and I have known each other probably digitally for a couple of years through a friend, Kate Davis Speak, who is a guest that I'd love to get on. We got many mutual friends, Rory, Emma. Obviously, we had Rory on our previous podcast, and I've been wanting to work with Charlie for ages. I like his style. He does horror, big fan of horror. And last year I was very, very lucky. Charlie said, "Hey, Greg, I'd like you to audition for these two roles." And I'm very, very blessed that I was the only person that auditioned, and Charlie had to give me the roles by default. But I was cast in both films by Charlie, so I owe Charlie a massive debt of gratitude. It's been a whirlwind. It's been tough. Some of the days have been tough, but some of the days have been absolutely fantastic. We had beautiful weather in Cornwall, didn't we?
We did.
That was lovely. The first block in Wales was beautiful. The second block in Wales, that was tough.
We've had all sorts of weather, really. And on one day, a few days ago, just before I had this few days off, we had in the same day, it was hailstones, and then the sun came out, and then it was raining, and then it was warm, and then it was freezing. So it's just like that's short in Wales for you.
It's just unreal.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? It's like when you become a filmmaker, you suddenly realise the importance of weather when you're filming, and how much it can change things, just like that.
Yeah,
you can plan. I mean, I've heard a little bit about your kind of. I don't know whether would you say it's novel, your attitude towards your approach towards.
Depends what you've heard. Depends what you've heard.
For God's sake, Emily. So
Greg's been talking about me, has he?
No, well,
not, but no, not in a nice way.
no, don't say not in a nice way. Don't mix those two sentences up.
Oh,
Also, we had a meeting earlier to discuss this, and I told them what it was like working with your set and how quick a turnaround you do, because it's a very small crew, which was really quite alien. And one of the first chats we had, and you were like, and this is it, is refreshingly honest for you to say, we don't have a massive crew. We've got this person, this person, this person, this person, and we work it all out. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. At the same time, I was like, I've never done that before. But you managed to do it, and it's unreal. You don't shot list, do you?
Well, it depends. Like, what I quite like to do, or when I've got so I'm shooting at the minute 2 feature films back to back.
That's just like, I can't even begin to think about two people.
Yeah, I've never done 2 in a row before, but I'm quite excited. Or I've been quite excited for the challenge to do multiple, like 2 shoots, because it's double the amount of days. I think in total it's going to be 43 shooting days that we've done.
And what day are you on at the moment? You posted up.
We just did day 30.
Day 30, yeah.
So yeah, there's 13 days still to go. But when you've got that amount of days in front of you, for me, and in terms of like shot listing and stuff, I can't, because I've not got the experience of doing it yet. I don't think I could shot list 43 days worth of scenes all at one time. Like, it would, like, I'd just be
Go mad.
Basically bored of just shot listing all that amount of material. But what I tend to do, most scenes I will shot list. When I get to the set, though, I kind of like to throw it all out the window and then just come up with things on set.
Let's try this. Let's try it from here. Let's try it from there. And it, and the thing is, it works. It's worked.
Yeah, I mean, you have to kind of have a flexibility, don't you? Because of the nature of filmmaking anyway. Like, as we were saying with the weather, once your weather changes, everything goes out the window anyway. So, and any number of things can go wrong. So you've got to be flexible. So yeah, I'm 100% with you on the whole. Yeah, shot list, be prepared, know what you want to do, but then when you get there, it just kind of all goes out the window. And
but looking at some of the setups, because you also do essentially most of the gaffer work, don't you? You look through the lens, you look at the screen, and you're like, right, now I'm going to go and set the lights. So you're doing the gaffering, the directing, the DOP, and looking at some of the scenes you get and the cinematography, they're really delicious. They look so nice. And I'm not just saying that because I'm working with you, because there are people that do a lot less with a lot more, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I started out when I started out making feature-length movies, the way it was it was just 2 of us making them. I had a cinematographer who was a really talented guy, really amazing at just making things look fantastic, and had a ton of kit. So, naturally things were going to look pretty good because of everything he had. Really big lights, much bigger than any of the stuff I've got now. So he did that, and then I did the sound, which was kind of like, in the beginning, it was just a necessity because I didn't have the money to hire more than just the 2 of us on my first feature. I'd made short films beforehand where I'd had much more crew members, and I knew that, you have the gaffer, you have the focus puller, and that you have all these people that you need. And basically, as the feature films have gone on, I've just sort of refined it down to, really, on the last film I made last year, A Werewolf in England, I started off the production with this same cinematographer, but by the end it was just me and a couple of other crew members. So it's just like everything's been whittled right down to just make everything as streamlined as possible. And now I find myself in this situation where I have a sound man and I have an assistant who is sort of it's more than just a spare pair of hands. It's like he's running around doing all sorts of stuff whilst I am doing the camera work and lighting. But like, kind of to my surprise, I'm happy with the results just as much as I was when I had my cinematographer. In fact, it got to the point where my cinematographer would light stuff, and it takes 45 minutes or an hour, and then I look at the camera and it's not quite what I wanted, or I'm sort of disagreeing with his interpretation, or he's just got sort of plain lazy with it and hasn't got the same passion still, 8 or 9 features into it. So I'm just like, let me fiddle with the lights. And to my surprise, I'm really happy with the outcome still. So I've somehow managed to find myself in this position where really, as a 3-person crew, we're managing to do everything. And for the films at this level and for what they are, it really works, and if you can make it work with that few people, it makes sense, because there's not a hell of a lot of money in this low budget filmmaking, or time, or just the patience to deal with tons of people,
So that's the thing that blew me away from, working on projects that I've worked on to working on such a streamlined project, and just seeing it work has been truly inspirational. And that's what I was telling these guys this morning about, I wish you could come down and see how this works, because it's inspired me with some of the stuff that, we might end up doing. It can be done. We can do this. It's all about finding a different way, in a way that works for you.
Yeah. With technology these days, I mean, it can be done. You could, if you wanted to, make a film nowadays as a one-man filmmaker. It could be done, actually, and people have done it, but it can be done that you could have a career as, like, I know I use multiple people. All right, you're always going to need a sound person. But I mean, if you wanted to, you could do all of that in post even. So it is possible to make a film as a one-man person if you wanted to these days, and get it out there into DVD and everything like that. So, which is crazy. I don't think 5 years ago you could have done that.
Now, I was talking about getting to DVD. Your film last year that you did, Werewolf in England, that did really well, didn't it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, well, the company that hired me to work to make that film for them is a company called High Flyers. And I had been working, I think it's maybe my 8th feature film. And I'd been working with companies in America. And so my films were all coming out fine in America and coming onto DVD and stuff, but I kept running into problems getting them out in the UK, because overall the UK is kind of a small territory compared to somewhere like America, Germany, Japan, So I started working with this UK company and making films directly for them, so that I could see the films actually come out in my own supermarkets in this country. I finished editing the film in like August last year. Luckily, we just managed to get it finished shooting just before lockdown, then went into lockdown. And then lockdown was kind of perfect to edit, because I managed to get the whole film edit sort of uninterrupted by popping out to Weatherspoons for the afternoon. And then before you know it, a week's passed and you didn't do any editing and all this sort of stuff. So I managed to get it done, but it was finished in August. It came out on DVD in September. It was the end of September, but that was a super fast turnaround. Usually I'm waiting for like
really fast.
I mean, one of the things that I think I might have said while we've been working together is that as an actor, you know about pre-production, production, and post-production. No one tells you about delivery.
Yeah.
And, I learned about that by proxy through Emily, who did the vast amount of delivery on a film called 13 Graves. And the delivery took how long on that, Emily?
Oh, I can't remember now.
But it was over a year, wasn't it?
Well, because it's just complicated, isn't it?
So that what we're saying is that turnaround
it's
is
complicated
absolutely
because
amazing.
of things like E&O insurance is like a massive cost, and
Yeah.
you've got to make sure you've got all your legals sorted out, and you've got to do your CCSL, and that takes quite a lot of time. And you can obviously, if you've got the money for it, you can farm them out and get them done quickly. But if it's just you or you and a couple of other people doing it, and you've got 50,000 other things going on, that's
and kids and
time.
schoolwork. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it's like the post for the short that we've just finished.
She always does this. She always does this. She always goes and screws up one of our news items for later in the show.
I'm sorry.
Oh dear, oh me.
Anyway, we've just been working on the short, and it's taken much, much longer than we thought it was going to take. But then we've got 1,000 other things going on.
Yeah,
so, of
course. So whilst you finished in August, and it was on DVD in September.
That's crazy. You working on it 24 hours a day.
Right. Say that again, Charlie.
Released at the end of September, and then it was number 3 in the DVD charts, which I think, I don't really have anything to compare it to, but for like a little indie movie straight to DVD, going to October at number 3 in the DVD charts, and then it stayed in for, I can't remember how many weeks, maybe 5 or 6 weeks in the top 100. But to like scroll through the list of everything, if you're number 3, to scroll through the list of everything that's underneath you in the top 100 in the charts, it's quite sort of like cool, really, to see like all these other movies that came out at the same time, films with name actors and stuff, but they didn't open as high as number 3 in the DVD charts. But I can only assume that means good stuff. And the company who funded the film was very happy. And still, I went into Morrison's a couple of days ago, and it's still there, which I think the lockdown and coronavirus, and obviously the severe lack of new Hollywood content coming out to DVD, that does surely all have a huge like, this is part of the reason why my film's still on the shelf. But these are the types of films that I would expect would be on the shelf for a few weeks at best, and then they disappear. So we're now in March, and it came out in September. So to still be there on the shelf in your local supermarket
for half a year
is kind of crazy, really. But needless to say, the company who funded it got on the phone to me after they saw that we were at number 3 in the charts, and just said, we need another werewolf film, as soon as possible, basically. Which is how the film that Greg's acting in, Silver Blade, came along.
So yeah, it's one of those inspirational success stories, and I think when Charlie and I were chatting before filming started, it was that really hit me when Charlie said Hollywood shut down, but indie movies don't need to shut down, because Charlie has a streamlined process. Everyone that we've worked with, we're essentially bubbling together for such a long time. We've all had tests. I've had my vaccine now. Everyone's now worked together for weeks, and everyone's fine, so we can do it. Our Hollywood production, not so easily, so absolutely bizarrely, and I think you said this, bizarrely, the COVID lockdown was one of the best things that happened for your film.
Well, for me, for sure. Because I know basically every time I make a film and then it's all over and done with, my goal is get the next one lined up, because you don't want to deliver the materials for one film without the next job in sight. You want to be editing one whilst writing the next one. Otherwise, you're going to end up with chunks of time off. And when I have had those chunks of time off, it gets scary, because it's freelance work, just trying to get each film. So if you get a gap, it can start to seem like, oh shit, nobody wants to hire me, like nobody wants to do a movie. And then you kind of think, right, well, how many weeks have I got until I need to go looking for a day job? because I can't just stay here doing nothing.
As much as we'd like to. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the scariest thing for me, that terror of a day job looming on the horizon, and every month that gets closer and closer. And I don't want to do it because I found something that I think I'm all right at, and you've obviously found something that you're really, really good at. And I don't want to go back to doing a normal job. This is too much like fun,
But yeah, so in the lockdown of all times, this is the time I've been approached by the most people. Asking, can you make us a movie? And given me the most money that has ever been offered to me as well to do it. So actually, it's been a really good time. In fact, it's the only time that good companies have come to me offering me budgets higher than I've ever spent, and I've had to say, actually, I'm busy because I've got this amount booked, and like the whole of 2021's booked. I don't actually physically have to buy it, and I've had to channel some of the budget off to an editor because I don't have time to edit the films that I'm making this year. Because I can essentially, I make 2 films a year. That's what I try to do.
Your winter film and your summer film.
Yeah, my winter film and my summer film. So winter film, all the actors go through hell and torture. And then the summer film...
They roast!
Yeah, the summer film usually is much nicer. Yeah, so usually there's 2 a year. I'd love to get to a point where, and I will get to a point, I'm sure, where I can just do 1 a year. And then maybe 1 every 2 years. Like, people often sort of congratulate me for always having a lot of output. I'm always making stuff and keeping busy. But just like anyone else, you've got to pay the bills and keep moving. So it's not always a great thing that you're doing 2 films a year. It'd be much nicer to do 1 film every 2 years and have a bit of a break, or spend a bit longer on the project. But that said, whenever I do get a gap of time, I usually fill it with, I usually wedge another movie in just because, I've got the movie making addiction,
That's awesome.
Very addictive.
Which leads me to my question, and I'm not sure we've spoken about this. I don't think we have. What inspired you to become a filmmaker? Was there a particular film that you saw and you thought, I want to do that? What's been your journey? We've also got a couple of viewer questions that I'd like to ask in a minute. But what's been your journey? What inspired you to first pick up a camera and make a film?
Yeah, well, there were a couple of stages to this. So one was when I was about maybe 10 years old or so. As a kid, I always loved movies. Like, I've always, my whole life, found, well, not now, but as a kid, let's say, I always have found life so boring, and films is like this magical thing, So like, I'd love going to theme parks and going on rides because it's like you're in the movie, and like seeing the stunt shows and stuff like that always basically has appealed to me. And then real life, like my mum had like a office job in finance or something, and I used to watch her in the evenings with her files and her laptop out and think, that's what I never want to do, because if that's what life is like, then I'm just not interested. I want sort of the magic of films and stuff. So I've always been like that. And I first realized what a director was when I used to love the film Nightmare Before Christmas as a kid. And although Tim Burton didn't direct it, you could see the world of Tim Burton, and you could see the vision. And then when I then watched stuff like Edward Scissorhands and then Sleepy Hollow, I looked at things and thought, well, hang on, that looks like it came out of Nightmare Before Christmas, and it sounds like Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's kind of, there's a style that runs through this, which is what made me first realize what the director actually brings, and how I could see, that Tim Burton's stamp was on all these movies. So that really inspired me, and from then I decided I'd like to be a director. And it's really handy that since such a young age, that's what I've always been like hell-bent on doing, because I've never really thought or considered any other career. It's just always been film, film, film. That's always been my obsession. And then when I was a bit older, maybe about 14, I watched Reservoir Dogs for the first time, which kind of scarred me because it was so violent and horrific, and I'd never seen anything like that. And I was a proper crybaby, scaredy cat. My mum didn't let me watch 18-rated movies until I was about 15. So if I watched anything remotely scary, even at age 14, I was terrified, which is just ridiculous because now I do all these horror movies and I just obsess over the violence and stuff. But that's partly why I'm so interested in it now, because it had such a strong effect on me back then that now I sort of enjoy recreating that effect for other people, because I know how powerful the effect can be of, shock and violence and stuff. But when I watched Reservoir Dogs, it was essentially a film set in this one garage, and I'd never, this whole world of like indie filmmaking and single location filmmaking hadn't really occurred to me. I hadn't been, because I wasn't allowed to watch 18-rated movies. Like this whole world of film had just not been open to me. And I was watching an interview with Tarantino, and I was just inspired by his story of how he made it. I mean, every director, every sort of celebrity director, they tend to do this. They create this little story, like rags to riches story of how they went from A to B, and it was just like this sudden overnight success, which is never the truth. It never is this way.
It takes years and years of work to become an overnight success.
Exactly. But Tarantino made out on this interview that he was working in the video store, and just like watching the movies off the shelf and writing the script whilst dealing with the customers, and that's how he wrote the script. And then got a bit of money together, and managed to get the script passed on to Harvey Keitel, and then and then got the script, and then got Reservoir Dogs made. So, but that kind of inspired me, because I'd never really thought to myself, like, how does one become Steven Spielberg? And I was at about age 14, I was at an age where I was starting to think, like, what's my path going to be? That by age, like, early 20s, I'm going to be able to do this as a career. Like, I was starting to think about these things. So when I saw that Tarantino interview, I literally decided right at that minute, I need to pick up a camera now, start filming now at age 14, because if I don't do that now, then by the time I get to, say, age 21, when I've graduated university and stuff, I'm not going to have the years of experience I need to actually do it as a career. So I was lucky as a 14-year-old to have that thought, but I think probably in the interview, like, Tarantino said something along those lines, but I literally picked up the phone, rang a list of friends who I thought would help me on weekends to make a film, and then I wrote them all parts, wrote like a 30-page script, and started making short films right there and then. The first short film never got finished because it was just too ambitious. But after that, I did 20 short films, which was like every couple of months I'd have a new one. And that went on until I was at film school. And then at film school, I continued to make the short films. And then I made my 20th short film about 6 months before I thought, I've done 20, so let's try a feature film now. And then that was my first feature.
Which was?
It was shot under the title Labyrinthia, which is the name of the film. I shot it on a budget of £1,500, which is ridiculous because I'd spent more money on short films. But in a funny sort of way, after I graduated film school, I kind of had nothing. Like, I'd spent all my money, I'd spent all my student loan, I was out of my house, I was back living with my mum, and I had no locations at my disposal, no film students all around to just help me crew. I just had nothing, but I knew I was asking around for locations. God forbid any of my family would let me film in, say, their house or their living room, because I'd sort of burned all those bridges. I've got by leaving bloodstains up the walls and carpet.
I was going to say, it's going to be the bloodstains, isn't it?
Just all sorts. When you're a horror filmmaker, you come in and you just leave destruction, So, I mean, rightfully so, I had no locations open to me. But a friend of a friend's mum was naive enough to say
Kind subtext,
oh, yeah,
kind
that was the
enough.
word I was looking for, kind enough. To say, well, you know, on our farm we've got these old barns and we're not using them. You can just come and film in them. So I've always, for my films, I kind of have always enjoyed building sets. Like I love to build the whole thing from the ground up. Like we were talking about my film, A Werewolf in England. Aside from the first 5 minutes when a horse and carriage goes through the woods and ends up at this old country inn, the entirety of the inside of the Victorian inn is a set. So we built the whole thing, 2 corridors, big stairwell. It's a 2-floor set with you know, all the bedrooms and stuff like that. And I love to build that from scratch and then be able to choose out the wallpaper and the carpets and the furniture, and then of course destroy it all. And cover everything with blood and set fire to things. Like usually everything gets set on fire in my films at some point.
I would want to be your PM. I'll tell you that much.
So basically, I've always loved building sets. So this friend of a friend's mum offered me her cowshed, and I thought, great, I'll go in and build a set in here. But it was tiny, like kind of to my disappointment, it was really small. But it's all I had. So this first film, Labyrinthia, was shot, it's basically set in one long wooden tunnel that was so small that you couldn't even stand up in it. And it's supposed to be like a post-apocalyptic movie about an underground world. But we just built the set of a tunnel where basically you turn a corner and at the end of the tunnel, it was about 25 meters long. It was just very short. So you turn a corner and then you go into the next tunnel, which was just the same tunnel. So it kind of looks like there's a world of tunnels.
Doctor Who kind of situation.
Yeah, but we even had like in this underground world, there's little cars. Everyone goes around on little go-karts, which we strapped like headlights to and everything. And there's a car chase in the middle of the movie through the tunnels, which remains like one of the most difficult things I've ever filmed. The cars burst into flames and crash into each other, and booby traps pop out of the tunnels and knock people off. So that's the sort of thing I was making, which looking back now, yeah, kind of ridiculous to even think. And in fact, it was one day when I was exhausted from filming these underground silly car chases on these go-karts, which most of them I was pushing around by hand and ducking out of shot so you couldn't see me. So while I was exhausted, I was sort of sat on this farm getting some fresh air, and it occurred to me, why have I decided to make a film in this post-apocalyptic wooden tunnel when I have this whole farm in front of me? I could have done like a horror film set on a farm, you know, like Chainsaw Massacre or something. So then my next film was Escape from Cannibal Farm, which is set on a farm, because I was like, that's what I should have done. Just set a movie on a farm. It wouldn't have looked low budget because it's not all set in a tiny wooden tunnel. It would have just looked like real life. Like, you know, I have the farm. It's an authentic location. It could look top-notch production value, actually. Yeah. So the second film, the second feature, the first feature, I don't actually class it because Dead Man Apocalypse is the USA title that it was released under. So it's Labyrinthia and Dead Man Apocalypse. But I don't usually class it as when I talk about my feature films because it wasn't a horror film. So I usually say, like, you know, I'm making my 9th horror film, but it would be like my 10th feature, and I'm trying to just scratch out the memory of Labyrinthia. But yeah, that was kind of a trial run. And then for the next film, Escape from Cannibal Farm, we had real locations. We weren't in little sets. We had the red Epic camera or whatever, so it looked pretty nice. And we kind of tried to do the same thing, but really step it up to do like a much higher production quality indie movie.
Awesome. I mean, what a journey. Something that you mentioned there is something that I learned on filming 13 Graves, because I was heavily involved in the production of that. was right for the locations that you have, especially with indie movies. With Hollywood blockbusters, we're going to build a tower block over there. We're going to build Rivendell over here. We'll do what we want. With indie movie, it's what have we got? Let's write a film around that. And you can obviously have a synopsis and an idea. And that sounds like exactly what you've done there. And, you know, and seeing what you've done. And I think I saw some of the set of Werewolf in London that was in the large barn, I think, where you tried to set fire to Rory. That was in the same barn, wasn't it? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, because we've repurposed some of the set for. I mean, it's amazing because now that we have that set built and we've got all of this wood and just this huge construction, I can now turn it into a whole host of other sets if I need to, which we have for this film, The Haunting of Bloody Tower. We've turned one of the rooms now into the King's royal bedroom, which, again, it's good to have as a set because we set the whole place on fire. So I couldn't have done it in the genuine castle, you know.
And so you know, we posted some of the photos on my social media of the castles that we filmed in that were absolutely gorgeous, all gorgeous castles. And that's it, you know, but also going from locations where you say, right, we've got this farm, we're going to build everything here. Oh, and now we're going to go and film at a castle. Oh, and next week we're filming at these beautiful waterfalls, and then we're going to film over here. It's just epic. How
do you get all these beautiful locations?
Well, we've kind of broken all the rules of indie film for these two films that we're doing. Because, I mean, I have a few rules that are just going to make a shoot go smoothly. And one is what you're saying, Greg. If you've got a location if you already have a location and you can just write for the location, I mean, a lot of my films have been entirely guided just by what location do I have available to me. I made a film called An English Haunting that came out on DVD last year. And I specifically wrote that for this amazing country manor house that I went there on to shoot a corporate video, and I just looked at the house and I was like, this is a haunted house. It's just literally a haunted house sat here waiting to go. And as we sort of walked through the grounds, and there was a greenhouse that was completely overgrown with all the glass shattered and like thorns coming out of and vines coming out of the walls. I'm just looking at the place like I need to at some point make a haunted house film here. And a couple of years later, everything just clicked and I was in the mood for a ghost film, and the script ideas came to me and I had the house. And so in a situation like that, it's just go, go, go. You've got everything you need. And then you can't really argue with, like, even though the films are low budget, you can't argue with the production quality because the house is just, you know, you could spend millions building a set. It's not going to look as authentic as that house looked.
Yeah.
You know, it was completely stunning there's no set dressing in that entire movie. Everything is as I found it. I added some cobwebs and that's about it. So that's really cool. But I love to do that right for a location, and making films that are sort of set in a single location, that too is going to make everything much easier. And I like scripts that are set in a single place. I like films that are set in one location. I find them more intense.
Yeah.
You think of like the most intense horror movies, Misery, essentially set in a bedroom strapped to a bed, or Cujo, essentially set in the car with the dog trying to get in. You know, these situations, it lends itself to horror, single location.
Where do you stand on Saw? Because, you know, you could say that's a single location.
Yeah, another fantastic example of a single location movie. I mean, they will have other little locations that come in, but if you can put the bulk of it into one place, so either you've got the location or you're able to build a set that you can base everything at. So like for Werewolf in England, we based everything at the set. For the barge people, even, you know, set on a barge, on a narrowboat, on the canal. Yeah, we did do filming on the canal, but we also built the whole interior of a narrowboat so we could have sort of fights there and stuff. So if you can bring everything together and keep it condensed, then that's going to help a lot. But in the case of these two films, The Haunting of Bloody Tower and Silverblade, the budgets are a little higher than usual, and I've also the fact that everyone's been sat in a lockdown for so long, and you just want to get out and travel and move about. These scripts, they're all over the place. There's so many locations, and I have done a good job of trying to really condense the amount of traveling that we've had to do. For example, we were in Cornwall for a good chunk of days, shooting both films in all sorts of locations just around basically one farm. Whether it was the sets that we have built, or we're in the woods, or I turned a horse stable into a torture chamber.
Oh yes,
a medieval council torture chamber, which you walk into these places and you think, God, how is this going to work as a torture chamber? Is this? I also turned the same stable into like a prison cell with like 3 old-fashioned prison cells, just by putting in the prison bars and all of that sort of stuff. So you just have to sort of invent these things and try and base everything close together. But even we shot at 2 castles. The 2 castles are about 45-minute drive from each other, so we stay in the same place and go between the castles each day. So there's a little bit of trying to keep things condensed, but all in all, especially having got to day 30 now, and here I am sat in bed sort of recovering from it all, you remember the rule of setting everything in the one location. So that you don't, totally, run yourself down going all over the place, going Cornwall and Wales and
York.
And now to York.
We're off to York tomorrow, which, I've been to York a couple of years ago. Beautiful, beautiful place. So I'm really, really excited to see what you've got up your sleeve for us in York on the day after. So what I wanted to do, and this is a really kind of crappy and unprofessional way of doing it, but I've shared this on my social media. This is part of one of the sets.
I know, I saw that shot. It's lovely.
That was built, and
shot.
That that's going to look even better, I think, on film. What's amazing is the amount of blood Charlie likes to use. It's a huge amount of blood, and the blood is quite unique because you had a stock of like this really super high quality blood, didn't you?
Yeah.
And it was really expensive, but then you also had your own blood, which looks fantastic, but I'm gonna say it tastes horrible. Charlie's often like, right, Greg, open your mouth just right now.
One with coffee in it.
It's so what's in it? Are you happy to give out your recipe for blood, Charlie?
Yes. So all this in it is, so I've got my golden syrup. So I like to buy, like, you buy the squeezy container of golden syrup. I pour it out into the saucepan and I heat it up so it's like a liquid. Then you put in a bottle of red food colouring, a few drops of blue food colouring, and then a couple of spoonfuls of cocoa powder. You put that all around and it goes sort of jet black like blood. Pour it back into the bottle and let it cool down. And then it's the most sweet and sticky concoction that ever existed. That Greg is not a fan of.
Well, I'm not sure anyone's a fan of it, but it looks amazing. And just, Charlie's just like, more blood. And there's this one quite brutal scene that I'm really, really excited to see. Not going to say a word, but there's just lots of blood involved. And, after we'd filmed it, looked down, and it looks like real blood. It's actually quite terrifying. But the beauty is it cleaned out of the shirt. Lovely. It cleaned out so well. So yeah, Charlie's secret recipe for blood, which is not so secret anymore. Now, a couple of things. Obviously, we've spoken about the films that you have done over the past few years.
Mm.
But I saw one of your tweets today, which I retweeted. You filmed a film and released, and a film of yours was released on the third March the 2nd. Sorry, March the 2nd. And what are we on today? We are on. So 15 days ago.
Yeah.
15 days ago. And it's already received, because it's free to view on YouTube. It's called Vampire Virus, and it's got a lot of the same actors. It's I had a look at it today, and I was like, oh, there's Peter, oh, there's Jay. 3 million views.
Oh my God, that's
3
amazing.
million views.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand this release strategy of why so again, this was a film where a production company got in touch with me. We wanted to work together. It was in fact, this one was like the easiest film job I've ever got. They wanted to meet me at this hotel. I'd not even spoken to them on the phone before. So I go to this hotel in London, and I met with them for like 10 minutes, and they said, we want a film where this, this, and this happens. How much money is it going to cost you to make it? And I told them how much, and they said, all right, then we'll do it.
And is that when you thought, should have asked more? Should have asked for more?
Greg, I should always have asked for more. I always do ask for more, and then they get me down. So that's how Vampire Virus came around. Now the same company, as part of the release, they've put it onto YouTube. And in fact, because I sometimes do scroll through YouTube to find if anyone's illegally put my entire film on YouTube. Because sometimes you can find that there's your movie has had 20,000 views, and you're thinking, well, shit, I wish they'd brought the DVD. So then I get them removed, of course. So I saw Vampire Virus on there, got it removed, and then I got a message from the company that funded the film saying, don't remove it, that's us. Like, we want it on there. So I thought, oh, all right then. I don't know what the strategy is, but yeah, it's had over 3 million views.
And that's on YouTube alone, isn't it? Isn't it also
on YouTube,
on Vimeo or?
Well, you can buy the film in America. It just came out on DVD on March the 2nd, which I didn't even know it was going to happen. Nobody even told me it was out on DVD. As is often the way, I got a message from a friend saying, "Oh, your film's here." Didn't even know it was coming out on DVD.
Oh man!
So a few days after I found out that there it was on DVD. Which I'm really into, like physical media. I love to see and hold my own DVD. So,
just quickly, Charlie, how many DVDs do you have at home or elsewhere?
Countless, thousands.
Is it true you have a storage unit full of DVDs?
Yeah, no, I do. So at home, so in my flat, every possible cupboard has DVDs in. And in fact, in my previous flat, which was smaller, studio flat, there were DVDs in the kitchen cupboards. So you'd open the cupboard above the sink and they'd be like double layered. There's a row in the front and a row shoved behind it. I have thousands all stashed away. And then I now have a storage unit, which I describe to people as like in Breaking Bad, when Walter White goes in to his storage locker and there's just a huge stack of cash.
Yeah.
My stack is of DVDs.
DVDs. We've had to cut down on our DVDs recently because one of our children has taken a liking to playing with DVDs, but he just destroys them. So we've had to kind of like lock them all away because they're all getting destroyed. It's really quite distressing. Yeah, I can understand DVD fixation.
I do like DVDs. I like physical media, but I love the convenience of streaming. But then we were talking the other day about we've been chatting about stuff. We chatted about Gone in 60 Seconds. I pulled the DVD out of that for the first time in goodness knows wherever, and I put it in the player and watched that film physically. And it felt nice, but I do miss. I like the convenience of streaming. But as you said, Gone in 60 Seconds isn't available, it's not on Netflix or on Amazon as part of their package, you can buy it, but I've already bought it, you know.
My problem is I'm constantly, you know, especially when I've just spent, you know, 30 days on set, and actors, there's so many actors, and you're all talking about films 24/7, and I'm always recommending this film and this film and this great film. And when I say great films, like, I'm genuinely talking about really great movies. Then you go and look on streaming sites, and they're nowhere. And I always recommend things to people, and they say, "Oh, where can I get that?" And it's like, "Have you heard of DVD? Just type it into Amazon." You can buy it, you know? Like, we forget that way of watching things anymore, because you know, when you scroll through Netflix, you know, I've been staying with some of the other film crew at their house and not at my flat in London. And you're scrolling through, you know, Amazon and Netflix and Now TV, trying to find something decent to watch, and it's so limited. Yeah, I think Amazon Prime's probably the best. Netflix is definitely the worst. Don't even go there with Shudder for horror films. Not in the UK. You know.
Okay, let me just write that question off then. Don't talk about Shudder, all right?
The selection just it doesn't match. I'm not saying they're a bad selection. I'm saying the selection does not match my DVD collection, or if you just go into HMV, you know.
Well, I often find that, you know, if you've got an eclectic taste in films, the algorithms just get confused. They don't quite know what to feed you, because you're into so many different things. It just keeps trying to feed you like one genre the whole time. Or is that not what everyone else is experiencing?
No, the algorithm. I became most thankful when places like Netflix and Amazon Prime allowed you to have children's profiles, because all we were getting as recommendations was like Tom and Jerry and Teen Titans, and it's like, we need to get the kids off of this, for God's sake. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice flicking through my DVD case and going, "Oh, I haven't seen that in ages. Oh, I haven't seen that," because we had so many DVDs, not as many as you. Absolutely, it's probably like 1/50th of what you have, but we didn't have the space, so we put them all in what, you know, DVD wallets, and got rid of all the boxes, apart from the special editions. Oh, you see, I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have said this. Yeah, not too late to fire me, Charlie. But yeah, it was lovely getting a discount, putting it in, and watching the "you wouldn't steal a car, you wouldn't steal a purse." It's like, don't tell me what I wouldn't do. Yeah, do you remember those? The hard-hitting "don't pirate a DVD," which, you know, they're quite correct, but skip, can't bloody skip them. So, look, back to the questions. Vampire Virus, released just a few days ago, just over 2 weeks ago, done fantastically already. And next month, you have another film coming out, Like You're Not Busy Enough. Tell us about Death Ranch.
Yeah, well, this is a film I shot not last year, the year before. And, well, in fact, of all my films, like, this one I'm really excited for the release. You know, obviously I'm excited for all the releases of all of them, but this film's kind of quite special to me because, you know, like the films we're working on, Bloody Tower, Silver Blade, Vampire Virus, which we're talking about, these are films where a company came to me with an idea and me to do them, which I still am allowed like 99.5% creativity on these movies.
Wow.
It's not like I'm getting, you know, really forced to do anything I don't want to. But there's something different about a film like Death Ranch, which was just totally my own idea. And in fact, so Death Ranch, it was like a dream project of mine. I'm a huge fan of grindhouse and exploitation and blaxploitation movies. In particular, there's a director I love called Jack Hill, who I think Tarantino takes a lot of inspiration from. Like, if you like Tarantino films, go and watch some Jack Hill movies, and it kind of, there is Tarantino's style right there. kind of.
Right, before you go on, I've got the trailer here. Shall we have a look at the trailer?
Yeah. Go
Yes, we show the audience. Let's see if this works. Fingers crossed.
Mhm.
You have no idea how good it is to see you.
Feelings mutual, believe me. You look like shit, little brother. Well, I feel like $1 million. I bet you do.
You busted out of jail, you're laying low. Soon you're gonna have another chance at this.
Possibly they won't come looking for me out here.
Not a chance in hell. We always said this was the perfect hideout. Nobody been on this damn ranch since Granddaddy died.
Nobody but us.
We gotta go, come on. Let's go. You're gonna barbecue!
Anybody tries to fuck with us, they gonna have another thing coming.
Let's get crazy. Girl I was with, where she at?
They're gonna wish they never did this to us.
You tell them, if they come in here, I'll blow their motherfucking heads off.
What a goddamn mess.
Holy shit, dude. That looks awesome. So,
Quite disturbed now.
was that fun to film?
Oh yeah, I actually had the best time making that film. It was some films don't want to be made, and they'll do everything they can to just make your life difficult, you know. And other films, they feel like they want to be made, and everything's just so easy. So everything just falls into place. And Death Ranch is a film where everything fell into place.
Oh,
And just like it made itself, it did its own thing. But I mean, I say that, but I had a really great co-producer out in Tennessee who was making a lot of things just happen. And you know, I was describing to him, oh, everything just fell into place. Everyone was so happy all the time, and he was reminding me, well, actually, no, they weren't happy when you were doing that catering in the evening. They weren't happy. That's why we went to restaurants every night and looked for it. That's why they were fucking happy.
So do I assume Auntie Sian wasn't working on that film doing the cooking?
No. Auntie Sian, who's been lovely and done the catering for us on these films, she wasn't out in Tennessee. But it was a really smooth shoot. But yeah, I mean, as you can see from the trailer, and as I was explaining, I love grindhouse and exploitation movies. I love films like Coffee and Foxy Brown and stuff like that. And this idea originally came to me just by, I was watching a bunch of like grindhouse movie trailers and just thinking, oh, I'd love to make something that was just, you know, they're all these grindhouse movies, they're all a bit edgy, they're all a little bit un-PC, and they all, that's kind of what I like about them though, they can tackle topics where you're thinking, should they really be making a film about this? Is this really to be considered entertainment? But somehow they're so much fun and they're so entertaining, and you just kind of go, you know, whatever, like out the window with the PC, please. You're just going to make what you want, you know. So, and I love this idea of the film is basically about a cannibalistic KKK clan that basically my three lead characters, three African-American siblings who are on the run from the police in the 70s in Tennessee, they stumble into basically the wrong ranch. they think the ranch is abandoned and they can hide out there and wait for the whole police thing to die down. But as night falls, the KKK cannibals come out and all hell breaks loose. But having said that, like, you kind of have to say this, even though it's a big spoiler of the film. The film is about these three characters absolutely obliterating the KKK cannibals.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's kind of like Black Power all the way. They get their vengeance.
I don't think that's a spoiler. That came through in the trailer.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, you need to tell people that so they don't get the wrong end of the stick of what this movie. I mean, I was reading, there's an article in Dread Central today, because the press has just started for Death Ranch, that says, you know, KKK horror film. But, you know, it's an anti-KKK horror film, if anything, not a KKK horror film.
KKK.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Now, a friend of mine, Tasmin, who she's crazy as a box of frogs. Don't ever work with her; she's nuts. She said, "Wow, that's a lot of golden syrup." She's terrified. Yeah. And okay, so pop quiz: was that the premium blood, or was that your golden syrup blood?
No. In fact, out in America, I just ordered Amazon fake blood, such and such, $20 a bottle. We got through a lot of bottles of it. I mean, Death Ranch has so much blood. It's crazy the amount of blood that is just spraying in every direction.
That eyeball, like, where'd you get that from? Shelf bought, constructed specifically?
Yeah, that was by like a effects props company that I've used them a few times now because I'm a big fan of Italian horror, and my favorite Italian director is Lucio Fulci, and in all of his horror films, the eye always is mutilated in horrific ways, and he always has the big close-ups of the eyes being punctured and ripped out. So, Death Ranch.
You're right, Em.
One of the characters bites out the eye of another person and spits it across the.
Interestingly, this kind of threads me back to something that I was going to say, because I mentioned Saw. You were talking about single locations. Mm-hmm. The other film I wanted to mention, which is a film that I think could have been so much better. The premise was great, but I think the execution was a bit iffy. Was Hostel. Mm-hmm. I thought that didn't need and this is kind of going to sound a bit weird coming from like a red-blooded guy, but it didn't need the pointless, gratuitous sex in it. As a standalone horror movie of going out there on holiday, and then you get lured somewhere, and then you're used as a plaything. And I always remember the blowtorch scene with and that was horrible. But it's such a shame. That could have been, I think, one of the most amazing horror movies, because, and here's the scary thing, this is what scares me, this is what gets me for horror, when it's possible. So if we look at Poltergeist, kind of scary, but, you know, improbable. When you look at supernatural and preternatural things, they're all flights of fantasy, but horror that's based in the real world that doesn't need any supernatural elements is the horror that really, like Saw, that really, you know, anything that could genuinely happen. And just a small anecdote, I did a TV commercial in Kiev back in 2016. And as an actor, our minds are kind of hyper aware and, you know, overthink everything, overanalyze everything. And we were driven to our costume department for our costume fitting. And it was suddenly, as we were being driven, myself and the other actor, we suddenly thought, what if this is like Hostel? What if we've been, what if we've been lured here on the pretense that we're going to be in a really cool TV commercial, but we're cannon fodder for rich Americans? And all of a sudden I just had, oh my God, I might never see my family again. And I swear to you, it was real. And that's what Hostel could represent, that thing that might actually happen. That's kind of freaky. But that reminded me, because you mentioned the eyeballs and you know that the director likes doing things with eyeballs. Who was that?
Lucio Fulci.
Lucio Fulci.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like eyeballs,
Brilliant.
so I might stay clear from that. So Death Ranch is out. Where can we see that? Is it going to be
in the USA? It comes out on April the 20th. And for once, I really love the DVD cover, and I feel like the distributors, they know exactly what film they've got. And I mean, I'm just amazed that there's the DVD cover, looking like a pure throwback to blaxploitation and grindhouse. They've even got, the poster creases, from like an old vintage folded poster on the cover, and the font and stuff. And then there's my 3 lead actors on the front cover, which in the world of indie filmmaking, you end up with a DVD with some stock image of some absolute crap that just makes your film look like a complete joke. That's what I'm used to. So I'm thrilled with the release of Death Ranch that's coming up. And like I say, just the fact that this is my own sort of, this idea is so crazy and out there. Nobody is looking to fund a film about the KKK cannibal cult getting taken down by a gang of African Americans back in 1970s Tennessee. Just nobody's looking to make that film. And I pitched it to a few people, and everyone's just like, wow, sounds amazing. But no, as if I'm going to ever fund something like that, because just what the hell?
Let's just take a quick look at that poster. There you go.
Yeah,
hopefully we can see that.
The DVD cover.
Nice. Very
That's
nice.
amazing.
But so to see it all coming together, I mean, I was explaining this to an actor the other day, like I've kind of like inspired myself, or I'm inspired by this situation in that, I know the realities of making indie movies, and that, you've got to make the film that they're asking you to make because that's what's going to sell, whether it's vampires or werewolves. And then when it comes out, they're going to stick their ugly front cover on it, and it's going to be stock images, and it's not going to be your actors. It's not going to represent your movie. That's going to leave film fans being really disappointed and thinking they've been cheated. But to see that actually it was possible to get Death Ranch funded, shot, and now, I mean, it's coming into Walmart, and it's a general wide DVD release. I think there's a Blu-ray as well.
And where are we going to see it? When can we see it in the UK?
In the UK, it is also coming to DVD. We have a distributor, but I don't know the dates yet on like when it's going to come out. So it's going to start in the US. It will come out this year in the UK. But yeah, I'm not sure of the date yet. We had a premiere Grimfest late last year, which was really cool. Obviously, it was an online festival, as all of them going online, so that was a bit of a shame. But was really happy to be included in the lineup for Grimfest, and then able to see people's reaction and read a few reviews of what people thought of the movie. So yeah, I'm super excited for that one to come out, and just for the whole team who worked on it, just to see everything sort of come together, because it's been a long wait for me. Yeah. I mean, like I said, unlike Werewolf in England that was finished editing and then a month later released, we started shooting the film in January, finished in March, released in September. Whereas Death Ranch, we shot April 2019 and it's coming out April 2021. So they've waited 2 years for this movie to actually be seen by anyone,
The same happened with 13 Graves that Emily and I worked on, didn't it? Filmed over Halloween 2017.
I can't even remember now.
No, I can't. It was so long ago. But then pickups in March the next year, and then just took forever to come out. So just what a weird industry.
It was 2018.
Was it?
Yeah.
It feels longer. It feels longer. It really does. Now, we've got some questions that have come in from some of our viewers. One of our Patreons patrons. She said, with regards to how you crew your film, minimal crew, streamlined process, do you think that kind of streamlining might have a long-term shake-up of the industry, or do you think that's how indie film has always been? Is that a byproduct of the lockdown and COVID, hitting us?
Yeah, I think people. The most important thing really is just you've got to work with you got to work in the conditions that work for you. So obviously, like when I was at film school, or when I'm networking with people at film festivals and stuff, if I were to say to them, I make all my films now with a crew of 3 people, they'll tune out and say, impossible. At film school, I was told that's impossible. You cannot possibly get any sort of production quality with just 3 people. You need the whole crew. It's kind of like a non-film. If there's only that many people, it's that level amateur that you're not even taken seriously. But you kind of have to there are no rules in filmmaking whatsoever. So no one can tell you anything. So whatever works for you is going to work for you. So if that means a crew of 30 people, then great, that's what works for you. And then if you're like me and you prefer working with as few people as possible, basically my theory is what I love on set is when it's just me talking to my actors. And if I could sort of make the crew invisible while I just speak with my actors, I would, because essentially once I'm on set, that's what I'm most focused on, is just the actors. So that's where this idea of like a small crew.
Do you find that it gives you more time to work with your actors in having a small crew?
I think so. I mean, maybe Greg can answer on sort of his experience working with us, but I would say that everything is so chilled. There's so few people. There's no pressure. You can take all the time you want. And it's just a unique working environment for just me and Greg to just get what we need done,
It was really, really unique. And the first few days, I think my first big day, because Charlie was so kind. My first day of filming, I think I had no lines, which was lovely. So it's just Charlie was like easing me in. And then I realized why, because we came to my first day in the cell and there was a lot to cover. But just having that focus between, right, this is what we need now. And the thing that I really, really dug is that Charlie is open to, I feel this myself as an actor, saying, can I try this? Can I do this? Some directors would go, no, you're doing it this way. And there have been some times where I've said to Charlie, can I try the line this way? And he's like, no, because this is what it means. And that's brilliant, because sometimes you can misinterpret what a line means.
In a strop and he starts stamping his feet and he gets mad. And you just have to give in and do it his way in the end. But don't worry, I'll edit it out. Edit.
It's all in the edit, hey Charlie.
Yeah.
I am going to say that my ride was quite comfortable. There was one day in Wales where it was so cold and I was so tired and wet that I was just like, I just want to go home now. This isn't happy anymore. But what I always say is, because it is a grueling job and it can be, it's long, but as long as it looks good. And what I always said to Charlie was, even with my sense of humor bypass that I had on that, like, does it look good? And he's like, it looks fucking amazing, mate. And it's like, then that's cool. That to me is you forget. I guess maybe it's like childbirth. You forget how much it hurt, so you'll do it again the next day.
I always say filmmaking is just like having a baby. The whole process, it's just like having a baby.
Yeah.
Filmmaking on a low budget is just grueling.
Just like having a baby.
It's a whole different thing, compared to, you say to people filmmaking and you're thinking, you know, cameras, lenses, shot lists. But once you're out in Wales, as Greg will tell you, it's not about that. It's about mud, cold, wet feet, survival. When was the last time I ate? When was the last time I slept?
Blood. You know? I need to wee. Need to poop. But you know, but
you can never have enough toilets.
I mean, luckily we were by stream, so that didn't help if you needed a wee. But you know, one of the things that I've really, you know, I just said it there, but I think it bears mentioning again, is Charlie. You know, you're very, very open to saying, "Can I try it this way?" And I love it when you have said, "Right, we'll do this one more time. Just do what you want. Go crazy." And that gives you the freedom to like go, "Okay, I'm just going to do something way out there." We filmed one scene with Ricardo. What a fantastic guy Ricardo is. He came down for a couple of days working on Silver Blade. What an absolute awesome guy. And you know, I also thank Charlie for introducing me to so many cool other people. There was this, we filmed this scene where one of my fellow actors, Tim Cartwright, he and I have got on really, really well because we're kind of the older guys, you know, not like these handsome, kind of ripped young guys that are on the rest of the movie. We're kind of joking about, and Ricardo's delivering this really serious line, and Tim and I look at each other and we have kind of a funny moment, and Ricardo starts laughing. I was like, "Oh shit, no, we caused him to corpse. Oh no, Charlie's going to scream at us. This is really unprofessional." But no, that's what Ricardo had chosen to do, because Charlie had said to Ricardo, what did you say? Make it super creepy or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if I get what I need from the actor in 1 or 2 takes and they've nailed it in my mind, and there's still a little bit of time, I'll often do this where I say, "All right, just have fun with this one. Do what you want. Forget all of my direction." Because sometimes, even though you're giving them, you know, direction that is accurate to the script that most of the time I've written, sometimes, you know, one little word or something that you said might just sort of like limit their performance. Like you said, creepy. They wanted to take it in this other way, but they're thinking in their head, no, creepy. But they might not realize that actually, no, to be jolly and crazy would actually appear creepy. Like that's my version of creepy. Like, so sometimes I just say, forget everything I said, just do what you want. And then sometimes you get really surprised and you just get some crazy stuff. Or sometimes it's just improved, you know, so
that's what I've really enjoyed, Charlie listening and saying, yeah, have a go at that way, but also appreciating the, no, I need it to be said this way because this is now what's happened. And okay, got it. So, you know, Charlie's direction has been absolutely fantastic. And hopefully I'll be able to, you know, do some justice to the scenes that I'm in. One of our other viewers has said, and I'm going to phrase the question for her, do you think there's a need for more horror scripts for TV shows rather than aiming purely at films?
Well, there's a ton of great horror TV stuff out there. But I mean, I hope that horror TV shows that are interested in horror, I hope that there's enough of them around, and I hope there's enough scripts for them and that they're getting to make enough stuff. But, you know, there seems to be a lot of good horror TV stuff around. So I'm going to assume probably yes. But if you've got a great horror script for TV, you should definitely write it. One of the things I would really love to do this on, like sort of my to-do list, my wish list of movie making is, I got into horror through watching like Stephen King miniseries. And I love as a format, the miniseries. I definitely think there's enough scripts for miniseries, but there's not enough. Like miniseries is kind of become a bit of a lost thing. But I used to love like the 3-part Stephen King miniseries where you get 3 or 4 hours of some really long story. I love that type of horror. And I have an idea for a specific miniseries that I really want to do. I've been wanting to do it for years. But I don't know if anyone's going to come along and fund me to do 4 hours worth of a horror story, but that would definitely be a dream of mine.
Oh, I'm sure that'll happen, dude. I'm sure it'll happen. So seeing just your back catalogue and your rise so quickly is bound to happen. One of our other Patreons and friend of ours, Wayne Liveridge, has asked the question: what are your thoughts on Hitchcock style films?
Well, what we were talking about earlier with like single location stuff, obviously like Hitchcock is rightly remembered as like such a master of all these all of his films. They're absolute classics, Psycho and Rear Window and stuff like that. But one of the things that could be very helpful to indie filmmakers is to look at a film like Rear Window, for example. They don't leave the room in Rear Window, and Rope's another one where I don't think they leave the room, or at least for most of the film, they're just set in these single locations. And even Psycho, you got a couple of places, but then it settles on the Bates Motel and the house. And I think what I'm saying about absolutely loving single locations for not just for indie film, but I just think generally it lends itself really well to horror. I think that's a great aspect of Hitchcock style. But you can kind of watch almost any scene from any classic Hitchcock film, and you'll see just a kind of perfect example of movie making. So Hitchcock is like as perfectly relevant now as he ever was. And
the most recent like big horror films like The Invisible Man, I was quite surprised at how few locations there were in that, and that it was, I really, it really upset me. The Invisible Man, really, really badly. But yeah, you're spot on.
Yes, I mean, I'm in terms of like also a general style, like in fact, there's a film I want to make later this year, which I'm hoping I'll get the chance to do, which is going to be like very Hitchcock inspired, in terms of like that very old-fashioned style of filmmaking. Obviously, the films are older, so naturally they're all got this vintage look. But I want to have like vintage cars and just make it look. I'd love to shoot a horror film, in that old, very classic Hitchcock style. So that's something that's on my film.
Just out of interest and knowing what I know, is that anything to do with stuff going on underwater?
No.
Oh, it's not that one.
No, it's actually it's an erotic thriller. So I want to shoot like some like very out there erotic thriller stuff and with horror elements. But to shoot it in this very classy style. Like one of my favorite films is Basic Instinct, which is absolutely, ripping off Hitchcock. Everything about it is Hitchcock, right down to like the opening titles and stuff, and the whole style. And I love the way, every character looks like they're in a magazine shoot, the fashion, the makeup, like Hitchcock characters are just like perfection. And everything looks kind of like it's not quite real, So I'd love to do a really sort of down and dirty, explicit, erotic horror film, but in that style that will totally disarm you, when you get to the explicit stuff.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Another friend of ours says, it sounds like you got a really great creative process. And I have to say, I agree with her. Knowing what I knew, walking into it, thinking this is going to be really, really intriguing to see how it works. And unlike anything I've done before outside of shorts, because on shorts, you're like, yeah, minimal crew, short. I get it. It's a one-day shoot. Shooting, 45 days of feature film with a 3-person crew. There was, I think, a healthy amount of like, how's this going to work? But holy shit, man, it works. It works really, really well. So, Charlie, I'm mindful that we've had you for like nearly an hour and a half now, and I was like, it's only going to be about 45 minutes. But this is how these shows always end up, especially when we've got fantastic guests on. So I suspect you probably want to get to bed, do you, or you got to have dinner yet?
I've got spaghetti and a beer waiting for me.
Spaghetti and a beer. Fantastic. Are the other fellas with you there?
Yeah. I've got Derek and Patrick, our sound man, here.
Oh, fantastic.
In our
Patrick,
bubble.
Patrick is something else. He's like the most cheerful person you could ever meet, isn't he? I say that with a slight sense of irony. But he popped up in Vampire Virus as as a bouncer, and I was like,
well, Patrick plays 5 characters in Vampire Virus. So when you're the sound man and you're just a body there, and I'm a filmmaker with, haven't managed to get the amount of extras that I needed. Yeah, he's a backup dancer, and he's a SWAT team member, and he's a doctor in the hospital, and then eventually got to a day where I had a guy who was going to play a bouncer, and then he throughout the day talked Patrick into playing the bouncer instead, so that he could go home. And what do you do in that situation? They made an agreement that Patrick was going to be the bouncer. So Patrick even has lines in Vampire Virus, even though he is the sound man.
And where was Vampire Virus filmed? It was filmed in the UK, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the majority, well, almost the whole film was filmed in the UK, with the exception of all my exterior shots were shot in Nashville. By a friend of mine who I made Death Ranch with out in Tennessee. So all the exteriors are of Nashville, and then all the interiors are shot mostly around Reading, and then it's at least half of the cast are actually genuinely American.
Yeah.
I put out the casting call for Americans and Canadians because the film's set in America, which is a distributor thing. They are going to get more sales if the characters are American. So the film Vampire Virus has never had like a big press release or anything like that. It didn't go out for review. So there are very few reviews or professional reviews rolling around on the internet, really just from people who have seen it, who kind of know me, and maybe they know of my horror festival, Soho Horror Fest, because that's where we screened it. But, incorrectly in some of these reviews, they say that the American accents aren't authentic, or that I use stock footage of America, but just shot it here. But it's not actually true. There's no stock footage of America in the film, and a majority of the accents are American, because I've seen reviews where people go, the accents, this one guy had a good one, but the others not believable.
And that one guy was a genuine. And that one guy was the Canadian, was it?
Discount the 10 actual Americans who are in the film. Fine.
Yeah. That's fantastic. All right. Well, say hello to the fellas from me. Charlie, tell people where they can find your social media profiles. Tell them where to follow you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I think on Twitter, I'm at Dark Temple Films. On Instagram, I'm just at Charlie Steeds. And then if you want to watch my movies, the best way to do it, just go on Amazon and just type in my name, Charlie Steeds. That's where you can find my films. So, yeah.
So there you go. And please, guys, do go and watch the films. You can watch Vampire Virus for free. There are a few adverts, but we don't mind sitting through a few adverts. And if you have the ability to, please go and buy Charlie's films, because what that means is people go, let's give him more money to make films.
Yeah.
And I'm an actor. I'm always looking for work. Absolutely. So, you never know what will happen. Charlie, it's been an absolute pleasure, not only working with you over the past 3 weeks, but getting to interview you this evening. Thank you very, very much for appearing on our show. And I will see you probably not tomorrow evening, but
soon, very soon.
Yeah, Friday morning, I guess.
Looking forward to it.
We'll travel to York tomorrow. Charlie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
I'll see you very, very soon, brother. Take care, dude.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Right. So there that was Charlie Steeds. What an awesome dude, huh?
I
And
love the guy.
yeah, I know. What a lovely, lovely fellow. And as many people have said, what a great method to the way he films. And this is what I was saying to you this morning about it's unlike anything I've ever done before, but it works.
Yeah.
And what Charlie said today is what works for you works. And I think that's it. I think that's it, isn't it?
We didn't have a massive crew on the Chased.
No, we didn't. But again, we filmed a short, whereas Charlie's filming 2 feature films back to back.
Yeah, and obviously when we did 13 Graves, there were about 100 of us all together. So
yeah, absolutely. Now Tamsin, it's been a really interesting interview. She's off to look up Vampire Virus, which is weird because she's a bit of a wuss. I don't think she liked horror, but yeah, it's got some friends in it now. I've been working with a load of these guys for the past 3 weeks, and it has been an absolute blast. I met Rory for the first time. We actually got to meet in the flesh. I got to work directly opposite Emma, Rory's partner, which was absolutely wonderful. We shared some really deep scenes together. She's a great actor, absolutely great actor. It was lovely to meet Rory. The irony is Rory and I have been wanting to work together for years. We're finally in the same film together, but not in any scenes together. So we share a title, but sadly we share no scenes. It's the way it works, it's the way it works. But from my understanding, Silver Blade, I believe, is out at the end of this year. And Bloody Tower, or The Curse of Bloody Tower, is out at the start of next year, or it might be the other way round. I'm really, really not too certain about that. I should be, because this is my job to know, but I don't know because I've been really busy. Give me a break. So there we go. Now,
what crazy?
Yeah, it's been absolutely crazy. Monday was great. So I had my jab. I had my AstraZeneca jab. And then, so I had that at 8:00 Monday morning. And then I was off up to London to record 2 hours of a voiceover for a video game, which was 2 hours of screaming into a microphone. But then because I'm cheap, I buy the Super Saver card. So I have to travel back after like 7:45 in the evening. So I just kind of mooched around London.
You're still up there. Okay. I saw your shot of London Bridge, which was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
London Bridge, it was great. But it was dark, and I was like, why are you still there if you were only there for a couple of hours? So I get it now.
I'm very fortunate. All my agents, whenever they say, got you an audition or you need to go to London to do some work, unless I've booked like a gig where they're paying you to travel or whatever, if I've got to pay for my own travel, which many voiceover and voice acting gigs, they won't pay for travel because it's normally like 2 hours, especially if you're. So what can I say about it? Because I'm under a really heavy NDA, but it's kind of character work. So I'm doing a lot of kind of shouting into a microphone. You can only do that for a maximum really of 2 hours before your voice is shot. So I'm going back in a couple of weeks to do maybe another couple of hours. But yeah, then I just got to kind of mooch around London for my daily exercise. It was interesting to walk past Parliament Square and see the protests going on. Lots of protesters there because of everything that's happened recently. Everything that's happened. It's all going wrong, isn't it, really? So yeah, but I'm kind of wiped out and I can't work out whether it's because of the vaccine.
It's a combination of all of it though, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be. And then, traveling back to York tomorrow.
Yeah. Lots of traveling.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Wales, you've been to London, you've had a lot on.
It's been full on. It's been full on. And now Charlie's gone. There was one day, and this is nothing bad, but there was one day it was really cold. I was really tired because the weather had just been crap. It was no one's fault. Had it been dry, and cold, we'd have been okay, but it had been tipping down. But of course, it's indie film. You've just got to do it, and you do just do it. But oh man, it hurt so much, and I was so tired. And that's when I was like, I hadn't done my due diligence and maybe prepared as best as I could for what I needed to do physically. You know, I remember when we filmed a scene in 13 Grades where I'm laying on the floor. I'm not sure if you were.
Yeah, I remember that.
The ground just sucks the warmth out of you.
Yeah.
And then just all of a sudden you're there shivering, and it's like, you know, on a feature film set, it would be like, right, it's not a real ground, it's the ground inside a studio, and it's heated, and you got a blanket, and you got this. But on an indie film, you just do what you got to do, and it's not a problem. But it's a different world. It's a different world, you know.
Yeah.
But it's been a pleasure working with Charlie, and everyone is just so chill, and everyone's so cool, and we have fun on set.
Are you saying that my sets aren't chill, Greg?
Well, you know, you are a bit. Of course they're chill, because you know. Of course they're chill. But this is very different subject matter. You know, we're talking about two viscerally violent horror films, rather than, you know, the stuff that we've done, which we should now talk about because somebody ruined one of the announcements during the interview, didn't they?
I didn't mean to. Really didn't mean to.
Goodness gracious. And so one of the things that we have to tell you all is, do you want to say it? Go on, you say it, Em.
Okay, so the big grand announcement, which everybody now knows, is the chase is complete.
Yay! That's it. Is
obviously, you know, with everything that's been going on. Oh, don't do that. Oh, right. Yeah, obviously with lockdown and me having to homeschool the kids and Gino working, time has been quite difficult. And our poor, lovely composer Charlie Seaborn, unfortunately, had a flood at his house. So things were kind of held up for a while, but it's all finished now. So we're very pleased to say that our patrons will be receiving a copy of The Chased this month.
That's it. So if you are our top tier patron, you will be getting a copy, or you'll have access to a copy at the end of this month. Our mid-tier patrons will be getting the access to their copy in the middle of April. That's right. Yeah. So there's the advantage to being a top tier member.
To not share this in public because it's still got to do the festival thing.
Absolutely, yes. This is purely
the patrons.
So if you want to see the film, come in and join us on our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/scriptworksp, or attend one of the festivals that we're going to be putting it into. But you know,
they have to accept it first.
Hey, they have to accept it first. Of course, they're going to accept it. It's an awesome film. And what's really nice about having seen it last night is the editing process. Something I'm very keen to learn from Gino, because Gino is a fantastic editor. Something that I really want to learn is the process of editing, because I remember filming certain bits, but they're now not in there.
Yeah.
But the film's better for them not being in there. It makes more sense. The flow is better. And whereas me, I would just be, you know, put it all in, like Zack Snyder's going to do with the 4-hour Zack Snyder Justice League cut that I'm going to be watching tomorrow morning after the kids come to school.
I view it as a little bit like stitching a piece of clothing, which I know it's not, you know, you might think is a bit of a weird analogy.
That's a bit of a weird analogy, Em.
It's a bit of a weird analogy. I mean, I don't sit there watching him edit, because that would just be weird. But yeah, you take, you know how I made a post the other day, didn't I? Where it was a screenshot of what he'd put on the census when they asked him what he did for a living, and he said,
yes,
I took one piece and I put it next to another piece.
yeah.
So it is a little bit like taking lots of pieces of footage and stitching them all together, and then you stitch in the sound over the top of that, and then you dye it, you color it, and you grade it, and you know, obviously you have to work with the material that you've got, which is why, you know, as you were saying, when Charlie shoots his films, he likes to try things different ways, and that's a really good way of doing things if you've got the time to do it, which we, you know, sometimes we have and sometimes we don't have. Sometimes you don't have the opportunity to do things several different ways, do you?
Yeah, no.
You just have to go for it and just get it done.
That's it. That's exactly right.
And then you're left with, you know, whatever footage you manage to get, whatever you get in the can is what you have to play with. So the more different types of performance you get, the more you can pick and choose which performance you want. So
wise words. Absolutely. So that's kind of probably our biggest piece of news, that the Chaste is done.
Yeah.
We've got some planning. We've been planning.
We're going to have a screening event for it at some point, which our patrons will be invited to as well.
Absolutely, and we'd love our patrons to come down to that. Very, very much.
We just want to hear from them, really. So get say hi, and tell us what you want to see.
But we've got a lot coming up from you know, some theatre projects. To other short films that we've got planned later down the line, to applying for some funding to actually be able to increase the production value, you know.
Start maybe looking at doing a feature on the horizon.
That's it. And you know, after working with Charlie and listening to his story, it was just so damn inspirational. You know, just listening to how he's done it is from, you know, it's what we say, he's living his dream, you know, he's living his ambition.
If you have a really minimal crew, the advantage, of course, is that gives you more time to film, because if you're spending your money on filming time rather than on having crew there, then you can spend 45 days shooting 2 films, can't you? You're not quite so limited.
But next time,
unit
filming
moves
during summer. That's all I'm saying.
But again, you don't always have that. You don't always have that luxury, do you?
No, you don't have that luxury. Now, I noticed a comment earlier from Wayne. Where is it? Let me scroll down. Wayne has shot a couple of shorts during lockdown. He said, I've done 2 shorts during lockdown. Hans' award-winning Code Duello winning awards too. I can't quite disseminate that sentence.
Well, Hans is one of the shorts, is the title of one of the shorts.
Oh, short hands.
No,
not big hands. I have big hands, not short hands. No, so Wayne's been keeping busy during lockdown, and that's fantastic. Not only has he been filming stuff, but he's been busy writing his book, which is self-published, and I'm sure we shall talk about that when we have him on the show, which we are going to have him on the show. When that happens, I don't know.
We've had loads of people actually ask to come on the show, which is great. So we're now sort of getting together a list of people of who we can have perhaps 2 guests at a time, maybe, we'll see if we can get that going.
It's difficult because
Get in touch with you all soon.
I said to Charlie, like, it'll be 45 minutes. It's like an hour and a half, because just when we start talking to our guests, it flows naturally, you know, and I don't want to stop them talking. I want to hear their stories, and I want to experience their experiences. Now, Tamsin has said that she thinks...
Tamsin, she gets so cross with you.
She does. She's so very grumpy. She thinks she's a middle tier Patreon. Did you say April for the film? Yes, but if you upgrade to be a top tier Patreon, you can get it at the end of this month. Did you like my cell? Do you like my cell there, Emily? It's good, isn't it?
And Wayne said, can you bring up Wayne's comment? That's the one. You want to turn your book into a film? Yeah, I've bought your book. I need to read it. So yeah, we'll talk.
Love to have you two on board. That's fantastic, Wayne. Wayne, get your people to speak to our people. We'll make that happen. Absolutely will happen. One last thing. So now we've given you our big news. One last thing that we want to talk about, because we are over 2 hours into this 1 hour podcast, and every time, I guess we just got to live with the fact that it's a 2 hour podcast, Emily, I'm afraid.
He might listen.
We got the Oscars coming up. The nominations for the Oscars this year are perhaps among the most diverse nominations for the Oscars ever, aren't they? We have an Asian American, Stephen Yen, has been nominated for an Oscar. Let me just pull up the others. It's a particularly good year for female directors as well. Oh no, this is a big old list. I just wanted a small synopsis. Emerald Fennell.
Yeah, Emerald Fennell. I was trying to place her. I think she may have played Camilla in The Crown.
I have not watched The Crown as yet.
Lovely.
We have Chloe Zhao, who directed Nomad.
Yeah, I really like that.
So, you know.
That, yeah.
Then we have the director for Minari, Lee Isaac Chung, so another person of Asian descent there. It's fantastic after such a long time of not enough representation, and you know, seeing people finally get what they should have had all along is sad, because it's taken so damn long, but it's good that it's happening. Yeah, it's absolutely good, because the more people that can do this kind of thing, the more people that can create beautiful art, the more people that can entertain you all.
Interesting stories.
And be recognized for it. Because, there's an interesting, be recognized for it. Lots of people, some people shun awards, and some people don't care about awards. But I actually think there is value in them, because creatives work hard at their art, and very few creatives ultimately are rewarded for their art. If you look at any other industry, from the medical industry, like the NHS, you know, obviously that's an essential industry, and people have said, well, the lockdown proved the arts aren't essential. But what did all the people do during lockdown? They watched Netflix. So all of a sudden, the non-essential sectors were very, very essential to them. And they're essential to us, to me and Emily, because it's how we support our families, you know. I'm not good at many things, and I think I'm all right at this.
Yeah, even if you don't want to discuss the whole art being important for people's emotional well-being, or the fact that they provide so many jobs, the creative industries are the third biggest industry for the economy. Yeah. It doesn't make fiscal sense to not support them.
Which is what's made me particularly angry about the lack of support for the arts from our government. Yet they have chosen fishing to be their hill to die upon. Yet the fishing industry, as valuable as it is like 1/5 of the value of the arts industry. Yet the government has just put so much focus on that invisible line that makes fish British and fish happy. But of course, that line doesn't exist to refugees or asylum seekers. But I'm now kind of going off tangent with my
Yeah.
dislike for our government.
Don't get me started on that one.
Yeah. Let's keep this light and fluffy, like a moose.
Light
Light and fluffy, like a moose.
Fluffy today.
So yeah, fantastic representation in the Oscars for I think the most diverse representation ever, and it's about bloody time, isn't it? It's about bloody time. I heard someone say, finally, the first time in 2,000 years, and I was like, I don't think the Oscars are quite that old, but I appreciate your candor. I appreciate your candor. I think it's about time we say goodbye now, isn't it? Because I want to go downstairs, have a cup of tea and a cuddle with Mrs. Draven before we settle into our bed for an early night to wake up to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League tomorrow. Please, everyone, watch it. I'm so excited to see Zack Snyder's Justice League. 4 hours of pure story, and because that's what Zack Snyder does best. I remember seeing the theatrical cut of Batman versus Superman and thinking, oh, that's all right. It's got Batman and Superman, love them. Then I saw the director's cut. Right, that's the film. And of course, the director's cut is always the better cut of the film, without equivalent, without argument. The director's cut is the way every film should be seen. So, please watch Zack Snyder's Justice League. Emily, any closing comments before we say ta-ta to everybody?
Thank you, everybody, for watching. You're brilliant. You're superstars. Thank you for supporting us. And have a lovely couple of weeks until we speak to you again.
Yes, we'll speak to you again very, very soon. Bye, Emily. Bye. So there we go. Just me on my own. Remember, folks, you can catch us on Patreon, patreon.com/ScriptWorksP. You can hit us up on Facebook, ScriptWorks Productions. You can hit us up on Twitter, ScriptWorksP, or over on Instagram, ScriptWorks Productions. But of course, the most important one for us is our Patreon. Please do, if you are inspired, if you would like to see more of these, creating a bit of revenue makes it a lot easier for us to do some of these things. Go over to patreon.com/ScriptWorksP and pick the tier that best represents what you would like from ScriptWorks Productions. There are lots of benefits to each one. We have one last comment. From Corinne Spinks, said, a good way to spend the evening. Cheers, guys. Well, thank you very, very much. I'm glad you've enjoyed the evening. I've really, really enjoyed having this chat with Charlie, even though I've been chatting with him the past 3 weeks and working with him. I really, really enjoyed getting to interview him. A big thank you to all of you for watching. It's a pleasure as always. Kirsten says thank you both very, very much. We will see you again very, very soon. Hopefully this time next month. But until then, everybody stay safe. If you have the opportunity to get your vaccine, for the love of the gods, have it. And we'll see you all next time.